Morning, thank you very much. I guess after the drama of yesterday's panels on industrial relations, we've come back to some more mundane topics. Okay, so in terms of the overview, so this study argues the first to investigate how stock prices react to elections in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Yes, I'm going to give you the results so you can leave and then we go to the questions. The study finds that parliamentary elections have a statistically significant effect on stock prices. The Bahamas, Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago, but no effect in Eastern Caribbean and Guyana. The evidence suggests that equity investors in the Bahamas, Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago have an opinion on the prospects for their investments under different political administrations, and these opinions are expressed through the trading of shares around the election cycle. However, the results do not provide support for the notion of an election cycle pattern, which is a general increase in stock prices around the election cycle. And except in the case of Jamaica, where the stock market there doesn't appear to not like the People's National Party, the results do not provide support for a political party pattern. That is, a preference among equity investors for a particular political party across the different countries. So that's the overview. So again, political elections are extremely high-profile events. They command tremendous media attention and popular attention, and the management of the economy is often a major issue during these elections. And the public commentary would suggest that election outcomes would have major implications for the economy. Now, one barometer that is widely used globally for the state of the economy, people's expectations about the economy, is the behavior of the stock market. And that has attracted a lot of attention in the academic literature. And we note some of them there, but the vast majority of studies are on the US and very few, if any, on developing countries. Now, why should you care about a study on stock markets generally? Because I guess but this is a peripheral, esoteric thing. Justin and a few friends are interested in this thing. Why should we care? Well, the stock markets in the region are relatively large relative to the size of our economy. So it's about 21% of GDP in Jamaica, 21% of GDP in Guyana, 43% in Jamaica, 64% in Trinidad, 89% in the Bahamas, 93% of GDP in the OECS, and 106%. So these are relatively large markets relative to our economies. And while only a few people own shares directly, a large percentage of the population is exposed to these markets indirectly through significant shares held by national insurance schemes. If you have a life insurance policy, these are invested in the stock market, private pension fund, and mutual funds. So it is not a small level. Now, in terms of the studies on the US, and there's been a lot of that, they identify sort of two patterns, what they call an election cycle pattern and a presidential party pattern. So in terms of the election cycle pattern, it seems the very fact that you are into an election, and the US has a very long cycle, that stock prices tend to increase once the presidential election cycle begins. So there's that election cycle pattern, that is an upward trend in that typical 2-year sort of active campaign period. And then there's what is called a presidential party pattern. Suggests that stock market returns tend to be higher under Democratic presidents rather than Republican, which is maybe not intuitive. We sort of think of Republicans as being more business friendly. Outside the US, there have not been a lot of studies and the evidence is mixed. There's a comprehensive study by Gonzalez in 1999 where they looked at the behavior of stock prices for 33 countries over the period 1975 to 2005. And they find something of an election cycle pattern where there tends to be a positive abnormal returns. The stock prices are generally higher in the 2 weeks prior to the election date. And this return is pretty strong. This happens where the elections were won by the opposition. The elections were called early and lost by the incumbent party. So what we do in this study is we look at the any elections held between January 1st, 2000 to December 15, 2015. Though I don't capture all, there were 42 elections. And there are 6 stock markets in the Caribbean: Guyana, the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, and the Bahamas. Actually, I can't quite see. Okay, so to investigate this, the different ways you can do this. So we are using a pretty standard methodology in finance, which is called the event study methodology. Essentially, with event study, what you have is you have an asset pricing model. So you have a model which tries to predict the price of each stock on a particular day. Then you compare the actual return on the stock on a particular day to the return predicted by the model. And you are looking for any abnormal periods. So the idea is then the gap between what the model predicts and what the actual returns are. Is there an abnormal gap around the time of an event? Okay, so that is essentially what the event study methodology tries to do, to see whether or not there is some change in the pattern of stock returns around a particular event. And I think for some students, yes, for people who think that methodology and econometrics is mundane and not important, it is quite significant, because I have been interested in this idea or this issue for well over 10 years, and sort of tried to do these studies before and really didn't find anything. And it's difficult to publish a study where you say you find there's no reaction. Nobody cares about that. But one of the features of Caribbean stock markets is that the trading is very thin. So it was only when we were able to introduce an econometric modification for thin trading that we actually started to get some results that are usable. So I'm going to skip all of that. So let's get to some of the results and some of the context. Because in some ways I found some of the economic performance under different political terms more interesting than the results of my studies. So the Bahamas held 3 elections over this period: 2002, 2007, and 2012. So stock prices reacted positively to the 2002 elections, negatively to the 2012, and there was no reaction to the 2007. I don't know if you can read this, but what I try to do here, in terms of trying to interpret the results, how is the economy doing in the build-up to the particular election? Okay, so I'm trying to do 2 things really, trying to get a background. Is there evidence that the economy does better under, say, a particular party, which would then lead investors to prefer that party to be in office, with some type of stock market reaction? And then how does the economy perform in the build-up towards a particular election, and how that might influence investors? So we have some good data in terms of performance. Most of the studies that look at this tend to think that voters might be interested in maybe 3 economic variables. They might be looking at growth in the economy, the rate of unemployment, which is jobs, and then inflation, which hits them in their pocketbook. So this table summarizes, just in the interest of time, so what we can say that, for example, in 2002, as they came into the 2002 election, it was preceded by strong economic growth, reduced unemployment, but somewhat higher inflation. So for example, over the term of 1997 to 2001, the Freedom National Movement was in office under Hubert Ingram. And in those years, the economy grew by, the real GDP growth was a cumulative 20.7%, an average annual growth rate of 4.14. The average unemployment rate was 7.78 compared to 12.68 in the previous political term. And the inflation rate was 9.14 compared to 15.34 in the previous term. And surprise, surprise, Mr. Ingram lost the election. So again, you would think that with such a strong economic record going into the election, he would win the election or get that vote of confidence. So I think one of the things I took away, which was not an object of the study, maybe something we could look at as a separate study, is the extent to which economics influences voters. And what seems to have happened is that there was a major scandal in the Bahamas. There was a lady who used to pose for Playboy, Anna Nicole Smith, who was fast-tracked for citizenship, and that became a huge issue and seemed to overcrowd everything. And the stock markets reacted positively to his loss. So that's an interesting thing. So you have a guy with a strong economic record coming in, but he loses the election, but there's a positive stock market, actually quite a strong positive. Stock prices are like 12.3% higher over the election cycle as the investors celebrate his loss. 2007, you have coming in weaker economic growth, higher unemployment, higher inflation. The government loses the election, but there is no stock market reaction. In 2012, it is interesting, you have negative economic growth coming into the elections, rising unemployment, and rising inflation. The government loses the election. The stock market reacts negatively to that loss. So again, the results do not provide support for that election cycle pattern. We don't see a general increase in stock prices as have been done in previous studies. And we don't really, this small sample doesn't suggest a preference for any of the two parties. The stock market reacted positively when the FNM lost in 2002. Did not react to their re-election in 2007, and then reacted negatively when they lost in 2012. There's no real evidence of a preference. Barbados would have had 3 elections, again in the cycle 2003, 2008, 2013. Stock prices reacted positively to the 2008 election result, negatively to the 2013 election result. And there was no reaction to the 2003 elections. Going into 2003, there was lower economic growth. Unemployment had fallen and inflation. So again, if we look at that, so for example, in the 1999 to 2002 political term, the cumulative growth in GDP was 3.02%. compared to 17.81% in the 94-99 term. The average growth rate in GDP was 0.75% compared to an average of 3.5% in the previous term. However, there was a big improvement in unemployment. Average rate was 9.95% compared to an average of 16.8% in the previous term. And inflation was also lower. So economic growth was lower, unemployment had gone down and inflation, and the government was re-elected, there was no reaction. 2008, going into that election, economic growth was stronger than in the previous term. Unemployment had continued to come down, but inflation was going up. So again, if we look at the 2003 to 2007 term, the cumulative growth rate in GDP was 14.7% compared to 3.02% in the previous term. The average annual growth rate in GDP was 2.96 compared to 0.75. Slight drop in unemployment, 9.95 to 9.2, but a sizable increase in inflation from 1.67% to 4.09. So doing better than they were doing over the previous term when the government lost the election. And the stock market rejoiced. 2013 election, going in there, negative economic growth, slight increase in unemployment and rise in inflation. The stock market reacts negatively to that election victory. So again, for Barbados, No evidence of that rising pattern. Doesn't seem to be a preference for a particular political party. Stock prices did not react to the BLP re-election in 2003, reacted positively to the BLP's defeat in 2008, and then negatively in 2012. Skipping along, I'm out of time. Jamaica, where we see in Jamaica, again, no evidence of a cycle, but there does seem to be a preference for the JLP in the sense that the prices did not react to the JLP victory in 2007, but reacted negatively to the PNP victories in 2002, 2011. Trinidad had a lot of elections, a period of quite uncertainty. You'd have had tight elections. And similar to Barbados and the Bahamas, no election cycle effect and no preference for anybody. No reaction to any elections in Guyana. And in the OECS, there was only a reaction to the Grenada 2008 election, where the stock market reacted very negatively to the loss by Pete Mitchell. So in conclusion, the 6 stock exchanges in the Commonwealth Caribbean are notorious for their infrequent and extremely thin levels of trading. So it is therefore noteworthy that stock prices did react to a number of the elections, suggesting that general elections are one of the events that move these markets. Thank you.